through the presentations that you'll have this semester. So what I'm going to give you, hopefully by next week, is an email that will be basically a chart that lists everybody in the class and the grades that you have so far. It'll be referenced by badge ID number, not by your name, probably actually only by the last couple of digits of your badge ID number. So you'll be able to identify yourself on it. That's important because I've had a couple of students ask me about Canvas. So I'll tell you a couple things about the challenge with using Canvas for your grade in this class. First of all, it just isn't accurate. So don't go by what Canvas says for your grade, or you will be maybe pleasantly surprised or maybe unpleasantly surprised, but it is not accurate because of the way it calculates it. Because we have students in this class that are here for 2 credit hours and some that are here for 1 credit hour, and the denominator in the calculation of your grade is different depending on which you're enrolled for, but Canvas doesn't make that distinction because we've got 2 sections combined. There's also another reason that it doesn't work. Well, there's a couple of them. I'll give you the spreadsheet. You'll want to look at that and then double check it against what you understand. We actually have one other group of special guests, and they're actually sort of standing over here because they're being seated right now. And we have students from Gunnison High School. Actually, now that they're seated, let me have you stand and be recognized. We'd like to recognize our Gunnison High School students. Thank you for coming to Snow Cars today, folks. Special guests for us. Also, in the next couple of weeks, you'll have available to you, if you're enrolled for 2 credits, the Entrepreneurship Media Review Assessment assignment, and I will give information to you on that. So watch your email. They're very simple to do, but you'll want to begin on that. You don't have to begin right now, but I recommend getting a jump on it. You'll have a month or so to complete those. One other item. Those who missed the introductory meeting on the spring break Disneyland Business Backstage Tour trip, if you're interested in that, I mentioned it earlier, if you're still interested but did not get information on it, contact me, let me know that you are, and I'll put you in touch with the folks that can tell you more before it's too late to get involved in that. Now I'd like to go ahead and introduce today's guest speaker. You had the privilege of already meeting him, many of you that came earlier, and he shook your hand and said hi to you. His name is David, I think he goes by Dave, Staheli. He's from Cedar City. How many people here from Cedar City? We've got a few of them. 1, 2, couple. How about from Enterprise? What are the odds? I just was talking to him, and he was born in Enterprise, Utah. And if you're born in Enterprise, you will be a very enterprising person, apparently, and come up with innovative ideas. His humor's better than mine. I've been looking at the 2 credit hour students' business idea submissions, and one of the neat things I've noticed is how you think of the ideas, how you come up with it, how you observe it. I'm going to let him tell the story of how he came up with the idea that he pursued, if you haven't already heard it. But it reminds me of some of the things that you're telling me spawn thinking of business ideas that you're having. And so I want to encourage you to pay attention to that, how he came up with this idea, where did it come from? And today, he's gone from managing a couple thousand-acre hay operation in Cedar City to today, they produce and sell I don't know, $250,000 hay baling related agricultural implements. So these machines, they've sold a couple hundred machines in the last 5 years since launching their business. Sales are doubling nearly every year. I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Mr. Staheli and let him tell you his story.
Okay, so there's a couple of housekeeping items really quick I want to clear up first. One is we were testing this mic out here earlier when I first got here to see if it worked. And I was standing over here and they kept turning it up and up and up and up, and it didn't work very good. So then I said, okay, well, I'll just speak up loud because I like to walk around a little bit. So then I went and turned it off, And then the next word I said in this thing was like, whoa, it went way back, and it's because this was off the whole time, and it was that was picking it up. So don't think I'm technology savvy necessarily. The other thing is when I got up this morning and I got ready to go to work, I put on a brand new pair of Wrangler. This is not the way you should say this, but since I'm from Enterprise, I can get away with this. It's a brand new pair of Wrangler Levi's, because we don't call them blue jeans, okay? So just in case, that's how it goes. I put on a nice shirt, and I was putting some Vaseline on my boots. I actually like shining them with Vaseline. When they get scuffed up, it works really good, and it kind of waterproofs them. So I was kind of getting them shined up this morning. My wife said, "What are you all dressed up for?" And I said, "Well, remember I've got to go to Snow College today and speak to a class up there." And she said, "Why aren't you dressed up?" That was the funniest thing. She was like, "Well, what are you dressed up for? Why aren't you dressed up?" So then she made me dress like this. She said, if you go do something like this, you have to put on nice clothes, a shirt and tie and all that. So that's why I'm out of my normal element here today. So anyway, picture me in the Wranglers, and that's who I really am more. But anyway, we'll have some fun here today. What I want to do, I know I'm going to run out of time with everything I wish I could talk to you about. I wish I had 2 hours with you because it would be a lot of fun. But I'm going to squeeze down a lot of information into a short period of time as much as possible. I would like to know just a little bit about you. This class, I understand, has something to do with entrepreneurship, right? What's the name of the class? Entrepreneurship seminar. So you come here and you listen to people like me once a week. Is that right? Wow. You are never going to listen to anybody like me again, I promise. It's going to be different. But, okay, who has an agricultural background here? Raise your hand. I'm looking. Maybe a third, maybe a little more. Okay, who has never driven a tractor before? Raise your hand. Oh, you guys got to come see me. And we'll put you on one. Okay, it gives me a little bit. How many of you want to go into business someday? Raise your hand. If you want to go into business someday, raise them up high. Okay, it's going to be easier. Who does not want to go into business someday? You do not? Or no, he was just slow getting his hand down. Okay. So who does not want to go into business someday? Gosh, this is a pretty good group. Okay, well great. I really didn't plan on it when I was your age. I was going to be a teacher or something like that, or just farming in general, because I really love agriculture, but farming is business too, so yeah, technically I guess. But what I'm doing now, I had no intention of doing, really until just a few years ago. What I would like to talk to you today is a little bit about. They asked me to tell my story, but I want to tell you some of the details of my story that are based on principles that have really blessed my life during this process of going from a guy that just managed a 2,000-acre farm operation, which I dearly loved doing, because I love working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I love being up all night, and honestly, I really loved doing that. I didn't enjoy the long hours always, but going from that to developing and deciding and developing and implementing a business plan, a business that is now, it's an international business now, not huge international. I could say, I shouldn't have told you that. You would have thought I was more important than I really am. But we are into Australia, we're into Mexico, we're going to Israel soon, and we'll be going into South Africa and other places in Europe and the Ukraine. Some of those places will develop a little more over time. It's been a ride that has been very interesting to me. It's been one that I've had to just kind of hang on to the handlebars and say, whoa, that jet engine is on, and I've got to just make sure I learn what I need to do along the way to be successful in what we're trying to do for people. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it happened and why. I'm going to share a few things with you that I think will be helpful to you. I want to tell you first of all that I am not here to impress anybody. And I promise you that. If you know me, my niece Carol Lee that is here, I think she could be honest in saying not about impressing anyone. But I am here today. I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you to look at some things that really, truly can make a difference. Now, before I do it, I'm going to only show, you guys have probably been watching this, this is just our website homepage. I'm just going to show one quick little video, so I don't have to tell this whole story necessarily, at least parts of it. It'll make it a little more understandable. So I'm just going to let that go. Oops.
Quality hay needs precise moisture, and Mother Nature doesn't always provide that moisture in a consistent manner. It's an age-old problem that every hay farmer is aware of. Whether it affects them or not, they understand it. It was the problem that David Staheli, president of Staheli West, was determined to overcome. The summer of 1995 in southern Utah was predominantly hot and dry, and Dave had grown weary of not having any natural dew. He was faced with the decision to bale dry hay that would shatter the leaves and lower the value of the hay, or continue to wait and risk further loss of quality. After seeking inspiration from above, he recalled seeing a tortilla steamer at a taco restaurant, and the idea to apply steam to hay was born. 20 years later, Staheli West is the world leader in steaming forage crops. The dew point generates steam with a diesel-fired burner inside a low-pressure boiler system. The steam is injected into the windrow as the baler picks it up. Baling with steam results in higher leaf retention, an increased baling window, and greater yield at the end of the year. The quality and consistency of hay is how the machine pays for itself. But the real benefit is the quality of life it brings to the operator. Baling on your schedule frees you up to live life as you choose, not as Mother Nature dictates. Customers from Oregon to Pennsylvania and as far away as Australia are living proof that the dew point is changing lives for the better. Staheli West is determined to continually improve the lives of farmers and dew point users around the world as it challenges the boundaries of technology in the agricultural industry. Staheli West, changing agriculture, changing lives.
Okay. We'll just turn that off for the time being now. Okay, so there you kind of see what we do. That, whenever I say that, what we do kind of is weird because that's what we do is do. Okay, let me tell you the story. You saw a little bit of the introduction. You saw the machinery that we build and that we developed over the last few years. When I was running this 2,000-acre farm, but it was way before it was 2,000 acres, it was about 500, 600 acres, alfalfa farm down in Cedar City. You guys do realize that the milk you drink started out as alfalfa, right? Did you all know that? Okay. Just think of that the next time you drink your glass of milk. Anyway, I had grown up in the little town of Enterprise where haymaking was very common. We were constantly waiting for natural dew to come in. When you cut hay, it is laid in a windrow. You saw the machine cutting hay into windrows. It lays in the windrow, it dries for a few days, then you rake it together into two windrows into one. It needs to dry further and get pretty much completely dry. And then normally, a farmer who is a hay farmer will wait for natural dew to come in the evening or in the nighttime to soften the hay up just a little bit. Just a little bit of natural dew is what you normally want. And then you're able to come in with the big baling machine, pick up the hay, it packs it into a bale, puts strings around it, and ties it up. And then it can be stored and shipped and fed and come to your table as a glass of milk or a piece of steak or something else. So this whole process of making hay has always been a real challenge. Now my dad, who is still living, who is 90 years old, used to move hay with a pitchfork. They used to haul it with a pitchfork. They did not have balers when he was a kid. So they would have what they called a drop rake that would drop it in a pile. Then they'd drive by with a wagon pulled by a team of horses, throw it on the wagon, stomp it down, haul it into a stack yard and stack it up. Even in those days, my dad got in big trouble one time from his dad because him and his brother had this nice field of hay that was all nice and dry, ready to haul, and their dad was off with the cows for a few days, and they decided to haul the hay and haul it into the stack. They went out in the middle of the day, pitchforked it all on the wagon, a number of loads, brought it in, and stacked it. And when their dad got home, they got in such big trouble because they had hauled it without dew on the hay and all the leaves had fallen off, and he was not happy. So they learned a lesson then. Well, today, with baling machinery, which has been going since like the 40s, that's the 1940s, sorry. I forget that I spanned that century so far, But back in the 1940s, there were the baling machinery came into place, and then it was really important that there be natural dew on hay when it was baled, or it would shatter it up, knock all the leaves off, and really devalue the crop. So imagine clear back in the 40s, they're baling hay, and then clear up to 1994, we were still doing hay that way. Do you know how many years that is? Great, we have some math students here. That's awesome. 54 years. That was a tough one. Okay. 54 years later, we're still doing the same thing. We're still fighting that same natural condition of needing natural dew. But you know what? Natural dew doesn't come on every night. It's really tough to get a good natural dew to make hay just soft enough so it bales up nice, but isn't too wet, but it's just moist enough so it's nice and soft. Well, in 90, I'm not going to tell you the year I was born, but I was actually managing the farm, and I'd been doing this for a few years, and every time that we wanted to put up hay, we were fighting not being able to get enough natural dew or getting too much and then making the hay spoil. It was always a fight. It always has been. So I'm a dreamer anyway, a little bit. If you want to write that down, that's a good thing to be. Don't fall in love with a dreamer. Right? You ever heard that song? Is anybody here old enough for that one? Oh, at least one or two. Okay. Well, my wife did, but that's all right. But I was dreaming about this one time, and I was really frustrated with this condition. So I actually have a habit of praying. And I got on my knees to ask a few questions about this. And, as I thought about it, pondered about it, I remembered, just like in the videos, where I had seen the girls at Taco Time in Cedar City put tortillas in the little steamer thing and push the button, and it would go really quick, and the top tortillas would come out really soft and pliable, but they weren't wet. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting thing. I pray, and Taco Time comes to mind, and a steamer, and I'm like, I had a lot of dry hay on the ground at that time. We were really fighting it. We had like several hundred acres down that were all dry, ready to go, but no natural dew. So I went out to the field and got a box of hay and took it into the kitchen. We lived just on the farm, just where we still live now. Took this box of dry hay in the kitchen, and I rumbled through the cupboard and found my wife's pressure cooker. Got it out and put it on the stove, put some water in there, and fired up the stove. I didn't have to start a fire. I want you to know we do have an electric stove, okay? So, just in case. Got it going, got it warmed up, and my wife comes in and says, "What are you doing?" I said, I have hay here, and I want to warm up this pressure cooker. Why? I'm just going to try something. Just trust me. So I try it. I put this, I got the steam going, had a little rubber hose, and I put it down into this box of hay, and it was really crunchy, dry hay. Put it in there for a few seconds in 3 or 4 places, maybe 5 or 6 seconds total. And I took it out, and I reached my hand in there, and that hay was like perfect. It was soft. It was not wet, but it was slightly moist. And it was really, really soft. And I thought, whoa, this does just what it does to tortillas. It was sweet. And so I thought, wow, my life just changed. Because this is so good that if I could get something to work like this, this would help thousands of people over the years ahead. And it wasn't that I was looking to go into business or anything, but that image kind of hit my mind. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I know that this works in this kitchen on this cupboard with my wife's pressure cooker. So there was no such thing as the internet yet. I want you to know that, okay? So I am kind of old. But there was a library. They did have libraries yet then. And I went to the library and I got the encyclopedia out. I looked up boiler because I knew you had to have a boiler to make steam. So I started doing some of my own research there to see what I could find. And I actually learned that there are huge power plants. We had a guy here from Delta that's over by the big power plant over there that uses steam boilers. And that's all it showed in there was like these huge steam boilers that were in a building that were like skyscrapers. I thought, gee, that is going to be hard to do something with that. But I knew that there was other answers, and I knew there was little boilers in the world. I didn't know anything about them or how they worked much other than they made steam. So I went to the Yellow Pages. That's not Google. Okay? So do you guys know what the Yellow Pages are? Who knows what oh, we still know. This is awesome. Okay, so I went to the Yellow Pages. Put your fingers through the walking, you know, the little deal that they used to have on TV back then. And I found boilers in there, and all the companies were in Salt Lake, and they did have telephone numbers. So I called up several of these, and I said, hey, could you tell me about boilers, and could you send me information? I got to hurry, because I'll run out of time if I don't. But they sent me, like, flyers. There was no way to look up stuff. You could not research online, because there weren't even computers yet. Well, there were a time before, I guess, but I didn't have one. So they sent me stuff, I read it, I called them back and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I need to make a whole bunch of steam. I did do a little math to see how much steam I thought I needed to bale a certain number of bales per hour that the machines that we had would do. And they all told me I was nuts. They said, we will not even think about selling you a boiler to put on a trailer in a field, bumping around like this, that will blow up. We will not do this. And so I went to company after company after company after company, and I got rejected everywhere I went. Finally, I thought I would just get on my knees again. And I mean, I did more than just these 2 times in my life, but I did it again. I got on my knees in the middle of the day that day. I was down in this little office I have in my basement. And I said, all right, Heavenly Father, you're the one that told me that tortillas could get steamed. And I saw it happen. And you're the one that gave me the idea that maybe it would work with hay. And so I went and got it, and it did. It worked. But nobody will sell me a boiler. So help me out here. And the phone rang right then. I'm not kidding you, this did happen. The phone rang, and it was a guy I'd talked to 2 or 3 days before, and he said, hey, you know what, Dave? I said, what? He said, an idea just barely came to me this minute. He said, I think I know a company that will support this, that has the kind of a boiler that will work. I said, really? Wow. Another one of those things, you know. And so I said, okay, well, I got their number. I called them up that day. I explained to them what I was going to do, or what I wanted to do. And they said, yeah, we'll do that. Just let us know what you need, how big it needs to be, and all that. So I went through all of that. And I actually had learned how to do drafting in high school with pencil drafting, which I kind of enjoyed, and I drafted up kind of a plan, got some numbers together, what I thought I was going to need, and ordered a boiler from these guys, and kind of got everything else worked out. And again, I'm not an engineer or anything like that. I didn't have a lot of higher education either. So I'm not encouraging you not to get that because I think it's really good, but I didn't have it. But did a lot of just thinking and common sense stuff and came up with sort of a plan and an idea of what to do. By that summer, this happened in like January, February, March, going through this phase. By that summer, I got the machinery, I got it built, put together. I had this ingenious idea of how it was going to work. And I had it developed so that it would put steam in a windrow out in front of a baler. And I thought it was so good that I filed a patent with the U.S. Patent Office on it. And I was so sure of myself that it was going to work. Took it to the field, and believe me, there's lots more of the story than this, but took it to the field the first day without a hay baler on it, because I just wanted to steam the hay and see what it did. Went out, and I had my wife, my boss, and other people at work, and some neighbors were there like, whoa, this is going to be cool. And we ran it down through the windrow, and it worked awesome. It made the windrow nice and soft. The steam coming out of these little spiky things that ran down through the windrow. And so I went and hooked up the hay baler. We went down the windrow again. I had the boss drive it this time, the guy that owned the farm, and he went down through there, and I followed because I was so excited to pick up the first bale of steamed hay in the world. And I picked up the first bale of steamed hay in the world, and it was awful. It was not good. It was just as bad as any other really dry, shattery hay that you'd ever seen. So I went, told my wife, I'm sorry, I spent our life savings, but I'll try and make this work. So I listened around a little bit to ideas of other people around me. Finally, after about a week of messing around with this, the guy that owns the farm, he said, why don't you just take the hose off the top of the boiler and take some baling wire and wire it to the front of the baler and just try it that way. I said, okay, I'll try that, but nobody's coming with me this time. No audience. So I went out to the field, and I went down there, and I was kind of like Eeyore going down to the field with my ears drooping and my tail dragging. And I was going along, and I started baling with the steam going in the front of the baler like that out of just this one big hose. And I turned around, and I started coming back, and I'm like, sort of pulled my ear back so I could look at the windrow that I'd just done, you know. And they looked kind of good, so I stopped and got out, and I looked at those bales, and they were pretty. Now, who knows what a pretty bale of hay looks like here? We have a few. Okay, so the leaves are all attached. It's nice and compact, and it was actually quite pretty. And then I got kind of excited. Then I went to work. I designed some hardware to go in the baler to distribute this steam around in there better and to make it a little more controllable. And that was in 1995. First hay steamer in the world that I knew of ever. And that's where it kind of started. Over the next 3 years, I went through a couple more steps, a couple more iterations of development, and by 1998, we had some pretty good machines. I had built about a dozen of these, and in 97, actually, we built about a dozen. In 97, one of the major companies, John Deere, became very interested in what I was doing, and they approached me, and also Agco, which is like Massey Ferguson, Heston, they're big farm implement companies, and New Holland, which is also a big worldwide company. They all became very interested in what I was doing. There was a little article written and put in one of the hay forage publications about what we were doing. And in '98, I had sold a few of these around the western U.S. And in '98, we decided to sign this agreement with John Deere, and they were going to develop this the rest of the way and bring it to the market. 8 years later, to make a really long story short, I had a great experience working with those guys. They were very interesting, very intelligent people. But 8 years later, they pulled the plug right before it was going to go to the market. And, that's kind of sad in a way. But in a way, I was kind of happy because they weren't doing it just how I wished they would have done it. And I had some concerns about it, but I decided to go back to the drawing board. I taught myself how to use 3D CAD programs to design, and I redesigned the machine in 2006, 2007, and it still remained a process of a lot of inspiration to know how to put this together. And quite frankly, I look at it and it's totally a miracle. in a lot of ways, how it ever came together, finding the right people at the right time to help with electronics and other things that needed to be put in place, and gathering experience that I'd had over a period of quite a few years from the very beginning. So this has been about 11 years into when I had first conceived this, 11 or 12 years. Just went back to the drawing board and redesigned this machine, and it basically was the machine that you saw on the video, the one in the middle. The tractor pulls our machine, and then our machine pulls the baler behind it. And we've changed it some since then, but the basics are the same as what I went to the drawing board with over those couple of years. And in 2008, we put the first prototype of that in the field that worked great, right out of the box. Lots of improvements software-wise and stuff since then. But in 2010, we decided this is where I pulled the trigger. Am I really going to be a businessman? Because I really loved farming. I just loved being out there on a tractor behind the wheel and just moving dirt, baling hay, doing all those kind of things. But I decided at this point that God had given me something in my mind and in the set of talents that I possess as an individual, that it would have been a slap in his face not to use. And not to try to bless other people's lives with what he had given to me. And I really mean what I say there, and I think it's something that everyone should think a little bit about. I took that and I go, okay, that's the answer. I'm going to go ahead and move forward with this. And so in 2010, we built 5 more machines. We sold them to people around the U.S. And then in the next year, what's after 2010? 2011. I don't know. We basically doubled our sales every year, and we've been just so blessed to be able to have things come into our hands when we needed them, like a place to do things. The first ones of these were built in a hay barn out on the farm. Some later ones were built in a farm shop, and then when we needed a building to build things in, that because we were growing, it just came available. It was like everything, whenever we needed it, we just had put into our hands. And I know that we were blessed in all of those things. As we later needed a bigger building, where we are currently, it just happened to come up on a bank sale. Like we were just talking about it that week, and there it was. And people that had talents that we needed to do certain things to develop certain aspects of business were seriously just put into our hands when we needed them. It's been miraculous and an amazing experience. Someday I need to write a book about all of it a little bit more, because to me, it's been a very inspirational experience. Currently, it was about 2 years ago that we sent a first machine over to Australia. We sent 6 more, and we've got several more going this year. And then Israel's developing. Mexico, we got into there this year. But there's about 240 machines around the western United States, one in the east, and then in these other countries. So all combined, about 240 machines out there now. And we expect that next year we'll probably build another 100, the year after probably 100 and something. We're not really great on doing market research and saying it's going to be, exact amounts, so we go 100 and something. Okay, that's okay. We're not as fancy as some people, but we've also been very careful to stay out of debt and to work in the black, and it's been a great thing that we've been able to do that without having to lose sleep at night over those kind of things. What I want to really share with you over the next 5 minutes or 10, as I come up closer to the time when I need to be quiet, this is where I wish I had another hour, but I want to share with you the basic principles of my experience. And if you want to write these 5 headings down, I'm okay with that. And you go home and think about it, because I don't have time to really elaborate on them as much as I would really like to. First is the power of observation. Each person has his or her own unique set of experiences. You're the only one that has done exactly what you've done in your life so far, that has been where you've been, that's seen what you've seen, Now, you've seen some of the same things others have seen, yes, but your exact set of experiences is yours alone. And observation through those experiences, you should use it. You should observe what you see around you. Especially if you want to go into business and be an entrepreneur or something. Look at things. That's what brought this whole thing to mind for me in the beginning, was seeing something. Seeing that there was a problem that for 54 years nobody had done anything about. Nobody. We are the only people in the world that do this. Okay? And because nobody else looked at it. Yes, they struggled with it. Did they? Absolutely. Everyone in the hay business that bales hay struggled with that same problem. And you know what? After this thing got developed, I've had so many people say, you know, I wondered why nobody ever looked at something like this. I've wondered that over and over again. Well, finally, it wasn't because I'm anybody great. It's just because I had the courage and maybe the faith to ask a question or two of somebody that I knew more than I did. The second big principle to me is inspiration. Now, I'm not trying to make it feel like you're in church or sacrament meeting today or something, but I'm telling you that inspiration works. And if you take what you observe and what you experience, and you ask a few questions of somebody that knows a whole lot more than you do, you're going to get some answers. And when you do get answers from above, it gives you the faith and motivation to do something about it more than if it's just something that you just conceive all by yourself. I'm going to tell you, for me, that has been the one undergirding thing that has kept me moving through the tough times, because it is not easy to do. To be an entrepreneur in any way. This has been a tough road. But it's been the one thing, because I knew first, I got an answer the first time about a way to solve a problem. I knew I'd got a lot of answers along the way, like who can sell me a boiler, but tons of other little things. I mean tons of other things that have given me the courage and the faith to move forward. The next one that I like is motivation. So we've got observation, inspiration, and then motivation. Motivation can be it can be defined two different ways. One is, motivation is like the guy that just is going to go out and pump weights every morning, that's not me. And no matter what, he's there, or you're running 15 miles a day or whatever. Okay? There's another kind of motivation that to me is way more powerful than just the drive to just go, 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 go. To me, there's two real different definitions of motivation. The one that has helped me most is why do I want to do this? What is the reason that I want to move forward with whatever it is that I'm going to do? With this project, absolutely, this kind of motivation was huge to me. It should be to you. Why do I want to do something? To me, motivation in what I do today, and the reason that I ever did it, I think I alluded to it earlier, was what will this do for the people in this industry that I love? What will it do for them? I knew that it would bless their lives, especially once I got using it. And I told my wife so many times, I don't have to walk out on the lawn in the middle of the night in my bare feet to see if the dew comes in anymore. I can just go and I can have a family life by sleeping and getting up and spending time with my kids and going to their ball games and other things that they do, but I can still get my hay baled and have a life. And I knew if it did that for me, it would do that for other people. So looking at a mission or a vision or a reason for what you do that motivates you, that to me is real motivation. That is the deep, broad kind of motivation that will help you succeed as an individual in anything that you decide to do. It's not just being willing to work hard, but it's why do I do what I do? Okay? The fourth one is education. Now, I'm going to just tell you up front, I did not graduate from college, and I kind of regret that. But I had a couple years of college, but when I had the inspiration, the observation, the inspiration, and the motivation to do something, I have self-educated myself way beyond what I would have ever gotten in a college degree. I'm not saying that's the right way to go, but you can, even with a college degree, you are not fully educated, period. It teaches you how to learn, and you might learn a lot of good, valuable things, but you are not fully educated, and if you think that you're going to progress in life without continuing to educate yourself, you're wrong. I've had so much fun. My learning curve in life has been like this, just steep, and it still is, and I love it. Every day I learn new things about new things that I never knew before. It could be business practices, electronics, engineering principles, it could be marketing, whatever. I love it. And it is so much fun to learn. Education is really interesting. If you have the inspiration and the observation and the motivation behind you, your education becomes extremely interesting. And you become passionate about what you want to learn, and you learn so much faster. You know what it's like to read some big long paper that you don't really care about, right? It's kind of hard. But if you love something and you have reason for doing it, you're going to dig in and your mind turns on and you learn 10 times faster that way than any other way. The last one is application. That's the fifth pillar that's really helped me. Application is where the rubber hits the road and where you take all of these other components and put them together and you make it, you implement it into something that actually becomes something. It's what tests your mettle. It's what makes you so that it proves that you have some tenacity. It proves it tests your tenacity to see if you'll follow through. I'm telling you, there are not easy days. All days are not easy if you go into business. They're hard. There's a lot of tough stuff you follow. Now it's the IRS I have trouble with, you know. I have to try and figure out how to protect some of the assets because we're doing extremely well. So now it just grinds on me. I hate that. But, you know, it's still, all these things you still learn. And then there's the days that you just go, man, how am I going to do this? But you got to stick through it. And, you know, even in patents, like if somebody files a patent in the U.S. Patent Office, do you know how many of those ever see the light of day? Where they actually are ever produced into a consumable product? I haven't looked recently, but back when I did it, I think 1 in 10 patents that are filed actually get finished as a patent, and then it was like, I don't remember, it was a very small percentage of the ones that ever get finished ever get taken to the market because people don't have the tenacity to stick with it and get it done. Or maybe they think it's just not worth it once they get there. Anyway, those are the 5 pillars that to me have really meant something. And the interesting thing about all 5 of them is that they all start to intertwine. Like one of them is never over. Like where I am today, I still use the observation every day. One of the funnest things I love to do is go back in the back shop where we are, and the guy that does our programming, me and him will go back there and we'll just get talking. I'll go, you know what, we can make this computer make it do this. Or it can see this problem and tell them what to do. And every day is way fun. I go back there if I just get a little bit down and feel like I'm a little stale. I just go back there and work with the guy that does our programming, and then we have an awesome day because it's like all new ideas. You know, we continually are doing really fun things with that kind of stuff. But so the observation stays in there. The inspiration's got to stay in there. You're never done with that. If you want help, ask for it. There's nobody that you cannot make as much of yourself as you and God together can make of who you are. I promise you that that's true. And then the education part, you got to stay on that. The motivation, you need to keep your motivations pure. For me, it isn't about money. I really do not even like money. I like having it for what I need to do with it, but it is so far away from my motivation. I love that I'm not in debt and all that stuff, but I don't really care about it. It's kind of a pain in the neck, to be honest with you, in a lot of ways. You're saying, yeah, right. Give some to me. Give me some of that pain in the neck, right? And I know I've been there too, and I know what that's like. But the education, the motivation, then the continuing education and the continuing application of all of those things that you put together. You know, a few basic things that have always been a part of my life, they all tie up in those things. Remember God and He will remember you when you need Him. So do His stuff. He'll help you do your stuff. And it works. You guys all know what those things are. They're really great economic laws that He gave, like tithing and like fasting and like Sabbath day and all those fun things we're not here to talk about. All of those things, but I'm telling you, those things really work. You remember Him, He remembers you. He will give you the success that you desire with a good heart. And you'll bless the lives of so many people. I have so many opportunities as I go around the country and around the world to meet and associate with great people everywhere. Everywhere I go, I love to meet people and rub shoulders with them. I learn a lot from them. I hope they learn a few things from my experience as well. But anyway, I'm going to have to stop because we have 2 minutes and 33 seconds for questions. So, thank you for letting me come and share some of that with you. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned some of those basic pillars that can be a real strength and blessing in your life as you look forward. There are so many things that are yet undiscovered in this world. And you know what? It's people like you who as you incorporate these kind of principles, you can do awesome things. So thank you. Questions?
After John pulled out, how did you finance the development of your first prototype?
That's where I needed another hour. I wish I had another hour with you. It would be fun. But, you know, I know that there's more conventional ways of financing. We were really blessed because I worked for a farmer who really wanted to use this same technology. So I spent the time, he provided the money for the hardware to put this stuff together. And honestly, we just went from we got the first one put together for him a lot cheaper than he could have ever bought it for later. And that's really how I financed into it. The initial financing before that was done as I sold a little business that I had for like $60,000 that we got the first one put together with, and then used our life savings up and put it together. But then we just simply went from that point. I've never really been in debt. It's been great. I know it's not always the way that business guys would tell you to do things, but we would build a machine if somebody ordered one, and then we'd sell it. And we'd take the profit from that, and somebody else would order one, we'd build another one. And by the time we had 5 or 6, then we had a little bit of money. And now we can build, we can build a lot of machines because we've been able to just do it on that principle. Now, you can't do everything that way. But some things you can do that way. We've been a little old-fashioned that way, and we've grown maybe a little slower than we would have otherwise, but it's worked. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any others? Yeah.
So what partnerships do you currently have under your name? Do you have partnerships still?
Let me just tell you, and some of this is really secret, so if I tell you and I hear back that you told somebody, I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut your head off, so, okay? So, just so you know. Now, Deere and Case International and AGCO, which is the big conglomerate of like Massey Ferguson, some of these other big companies, we've currently established some good relationships with all 3 of those, and the reason is they all make balers, those big balers that make the big bales, and now, instead of us going to their door and asking them, hey, are you interested in this technology like we did? Well, it kind of didn't happen that way, but instead of that, they're coming to us now and saying, hey, this technology really works. We don't want to be left out. We want to endorse what you're doing, and we want to tie our name up with you to say, our baler works with this guy's little toy. And so it's been kind of an interesting switch. And so, yeah, we've been talking to all of them about cooperative work with them. And we've actually had offers from some of them to help us develop some of the electronic technology that we're going to move into in the future. So, okay. Any others real quick? And I know we've got to be done, right? Okay, so I'm going to sit down. Thank you.
So you can probably guess what 5 things will be on the quiz. So I hope you took good notes and are able to incorporate those. Very inspiring words of wisdom, great presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Staheli.
Well, thank you.
I got 10 out of 60 on the